The dual state championships is much more exciting. The amount of parents that travel when we go to all these dual tournaments just increased tremendously. By the third IBT tournament during the season, I may have 2 parents showing up. We go to dual tournaments and all of them are showing up because it's so much more competitive and the kids really get much closer.
Welcome back to the North Florida Wrestling Show. We have 2 of the best in North Florida on with us and 2 previous guests. One, Mr. John Wainwright from Suwannee High School Bulldogs over in Live Oak, and Coach Clay Allen of Florida High. They're both ranked in the top 10 in both of the major polls heading into this preseason. So we got them on the show to kind of talk about it. Clay, how you feeling about your team heading into this preseason, and is there a lot of pressure being a top 10 team?
It's good, man. We've been doing good, just like everybody, kind of getting into the flow of the school year, getting the kids in and getting them started back lifting again and getting back on the mat with club practice and kind of getting involved in some local tournaments here and there and, trying to get them kind of just ready to get back into the grind of hitting things, the way that you need to get ready for the season. Again, we've been doing pretty good.
All right, John, how about you? How are you feeling about the Bulldog season this year coming in already ranked up in the top 10? Is there a lot of pressure on y'all?
Well, it's good, and Clay's got his team right there with us. That's going to be a battle this year. Suwannee and Florida High. It's going to be a tight one. But the kids they're working hard. Joey Phillips has come in, and he's working with them every day. He's pretty much taken over the club and getting things going. So we're just like Clay. We're excited. I'm ready for November to go ahead and get here.
Who else is on your radar as far as teams and wrestlers in the area that you might be looking at?
You can say what you want about Wakulla, but Wakulla is going to show up with 14 kids and they are going to battle. And so, again, like I would put our 3 teams against pretty much most districts in the state of Florida in our classification. Generally speaking, whoever comes out of our district is usually the one that makes one of those deeper runs. And so again, I understand that, the polls say Wakulla's down, but again, I've beaten Wakulla in a dual meet one time in my 13 years now as a head coach in a dual meet, and so those guys are always really good when it comes to the dual meet scenario, and obviously Suwannee's really, really good. And, those Panama City guys are, a lot of those guys, the Bays and North Bay Havens, those guys are doing a really good job over there of making themselves better and doing the stuff in the off season that it takes. It was, and then obviously, you have those Jacksonville teams and, even without Clay, I'd argue that our region was pretty tough individually last year. But again, it's one of those scenarios where in our classification, you get kids that kind of slide here, slide there, end up over there, and moms move and get custody, and next thing you know, you got a team with 6-7 kids that are really good, and then they fill out the rest of the lineup, and it all depends on how you match up with them.
Yeah, the same. If you go over west of us, North Bay Haven's got several kids there, and they're traveling. They've went and hit some big tournaments. They're getting big matches. I think Bear and Stilger's kid. I think they're going to be tough this year. They've took it serious this summer. They've hit it hard. Of course, the Williams kid over there, he's going to be tough. At Eric Bozeman, state runner up. He's one of the best in the state right now. And then, we'll see what Travis brings. Travis usually has 1 or 2 good kids on his team that he brings. So, they're building over there. And I know Travis is working hard on his club, trying to get that club going. And that is the future. That's the same thing I talked to Joey about when he come into Suwannee is we have to get this club back going like we had it in the 90s. And if we can get it back up there, then Suwannee will just be, you know, it'll be like FSU back in '87 to 2000. We just reload every year, and but that's the reason last year. I made sure that I went to Clay, and we dueled Clay at Clay last year. Now Reap will be coming to Suwannee this year, so I made sure we had that duel because I knew they weren't going to be in the region, and I needed for everybody to know that we're still going to match up with them, and we're going to battle with Reap anytime we have a chance because Reap's teams are always tough. Even if you want to say they have a down year, they're tough. They come out and fight. And then, I love going over there fighting with PJ, battling his kids because, they're just going to come at you and try to smash you in the mouth. And but, and Clay, I think Clay and Path, I mean, this is our biggest thing is Somerset, Jensen Beach, Mater Lakes. I mean, I remind my kids every day. And that's the kids we have to beat. If we want to do something special, we have to beat them. And so those are the ones that are on our radar every day.
I think some of the boys teams in North Florida can are in the right direction to get a state championship. Which I do want to mention. I have been on here saying that there should be a team that brings a state championship to North Florida, and recently and all that. And we promote girls wrestling. And I have failed to mention that Matanzas has a girls team that is state champion. So I want to apologize to the Lady Pirates. Yeah. And if I can get Coach on here talking about them, I would love to. But I wanted to get out of that other way. I thought about the other day and felt awful about it. So breaking into the kind of meat of what we're going on. Anybody who has been on the Facebook a little bit lately has seen Wade Shallows putting out a couple of his Super Six to save or grow wrestling. A couple of points I thought were really cool, and I wanted to talk to a couple of the coaches about. So the first one is switching the dual and IBT tournaments for state to make the dual championships the end of the year state title, as to go away from what it is now or how it has traditionally been. Clay, I know you have some pretty passionate feelings about this because we had to stop our Facebook Messenger so we could save it for the podcast. So, what is your take on that about switching the duels?
So when we in the state of Florida went to the dual state series, right, to determine a dual state team winner, I thought that it was kind of silly that we continue to crown a individual tournament champion for the IBT states, and I get that it's what they did in the NCAA before, but again, like if the team dual tournament is to crown a team dual champion, I think that should be the team portion of it, and the IBT portion of it, in my mind, should just be individuals looking to try to win state titles. And again, I also understand that a lot of the times those are usually the same teams, right? Like the Jensen Beaches of the world last year win individual state title, and they also win the team state title, but that's not always the case, right? And so, if you're in a situation where you got 6-7 kids who are high state placers and you do that on the right year, you're going to win an individual team state title. And I, like I shared with you a few times, if the dual state tournament is for the team champion, then that should be how we crown the team champion. And I think it's kind of silly that we hand out a team state champion at an individual tournament.
What about you, John?
Well, just old school, we've I really didn't like the dual tournament when I first came back and the dual tournament was there, especially where it is in the middle of the season, right there in January. But I do after watching the parents and watching everything, the dual state championships is much more exciting. I mean, the amount of parents that travel when we go to all these dual tournaments just increased tremendously. IBTs, by the third IBT tournament during the season, I may have 2 parents showing up. We go to dual tournaments and all of them are showing up. because it's so much more competitive, and the kids really get much closer. Everything about the team building gets so much closer when you do the duels. I still like the individual, the IBT. We have to see who the best kids are. If it was up to me, we wouldn't have 3 classifications. We'd be back to either 1 or 2, and we would see who the best kids are. I would really love us to go back to 2, but I understand. I mean, it gives everybody another chance. Like I tell kids, 260 of you wouldn't even make it to state, and that'd be state champions. That wouldn't be going to state, because you'd be getting knocked out at regions. They don't realize how tough regions was back in when we only had 2. You had, I mean, if you qualified for state when there were 2 states, you were a stud. I mean, you were good. You were not a bad kid. And, it's just 2 different worlds. But is he looking at getting rid of IBT or just switching them?
I think the way that Wade Schaus was talking about, he was telling about just switching them, because he was kind of alluding kind of the same fact of what you're saying, is that the dual tournament was more exciting, and that's going to bring a lot of the excitement factor into it. Whereas with the IBT, like you said, it's a bit of a drag over the course of 2 or 3 days. If you're not just going to go and watch the finals. That's kind of where he was at with it, is making it, which I think that would be kind of cool, because then you have the credentials going into the dual tournaments of like, oh, this dude won state back in January or whenever,
right?
And then you have the team storylines going into it. I do understand why they do a team championships, kind of what you're alluding to, what you were saying, Clay. Because it does give those guys that get maybe knocked out in before the finals a chance to be like, oh, another thing to go back for, not just a 3rd place medal. Because I know Coach over at Suwannee, that was a big thing for Laxton. It's like, you get knocked out in the championships, the rest of it is about the team. You're putting points on the board for the team. He's always said semifinals is for the team, championships for you. So I've always liked that fact, seeing how much you can get back. But it does, kind of put it up like, okay, well, we're the team champions. Well, we're the IBT champions. It does kind of give a little bit of leeway to it.
Yeah.
So John, back when you guys, just to touch on this, because I don't think a lot of people realize, back when you wrestled, like, you're talking follow the leader, right? That's back in follow the leader time.
Well, I don't want to go back to that. That was rough. that was. I watched state champions get knocked out in the first round and not have a chance to come back in. No. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm just talking. I think they water down classification. It's just an opinion. Like football, there's 10, 12 state champs now in football. I mean, it seems to water it down. I think. I was talking about this today. A couple of years back, I think it was FAMU High. What were they, 2-8, and won a state championship in football? I mean, it's just, how do you do that? But it's just different. I mean, everybody wants more people involved, so I'm sure, and it's more money for the FHSA. I mean, that's the bottom line. It is a lot more money. But no, I don't want to do that, Clay. The double elimination is just fine. I don't want to follow, because I watched some really good guys get knocked out, and then you lose a 4-3 match in the semis, and your whole side is out of the tournament.
Yep.
Suwannee would have won. We would have won 85, 86. We'd have won the state championship if that wouldn't have happened, because it knocked 2 of our guys that were really number 1, Gandiana and Mickey Peppers. And both of those guys would have stormed back in the 3rd easy.
You don't know.
I don't see how that ever caught on. Like, I've heard the stories of them. Like, that sounds like it would be terrible.
It was crazy. I don't even know how they came up with that type of bracket. I don't even know who came up with it.
It is what it is. Speaking of the state championships, kind of going off of what the dual championships tournament that Wade Schaus was saying in the Super 6 was the idea of dual shuffling or weight shuffling. And so Imagine that we have Coach John Wainwright and Coach Clay Allen in a duel against each other. Coach Clay Allen wins the flips, and so he has a little bit more strategy into it. If he decides he wants to start at the middleweight, he sends a middleweight out, and then for the next match, Coach John says he wants to go the heavyweight or wants to go with the lightweight. So you alternate weight classes until all of them are done. And Wade Chalice says it's going to add a little bit more strategy into it, maybe going into a dual state championship where you don't know who's coming out next. Thoughts on that? Coach Clay, go ahead.
Look, I think that's going to take a lot of sleep away from us, because you'll have, John is probably just going to throw out who he throws out, and that's what he's going to do. And it's not going to matter to him who you put where. But, I don't know if it's the young person in me or what it is, but I'd probably have about 17 different spreadsheets on an iPad. And I'd probably have every different variation of way that he could put. I mean, and I'm telling you, I'm not the only one. I guarantee you there are lots of people. I guarantee you Will Pafford would have it. I know Zane would have one just like that. There would be lots of coaches that would be like that, where it's like, all right, these are the guys that I want to wrestle against these guys. And you would have like a flow chart of who you'd put out based off of where you are. And like I said, that would just, again, I don't think I'd sleep for about the whole week, if you get to that point, and I'd be a zombie, and I would just go right off of my little spreadsheet, kind of like the that football thing where they talk about whether or not to go for two or not to go for two. They have that chart, right? I would have to make that chart yearly of like, all right, which kid do I need to have where, and in what order, and which kid is going to come out and bring energy if we need energy. Like, these are all things that I'd be thinking about, right? Like if we lose a big match, unless I got a big high flying heavyweight, I don't care if my heavyweight's going to go out and win. Like, I need somebody to get excited about stuff. So I got to send somebody out there that's going to do lots of stuff that's going to get people excited.
Yeah. I love that idea. I mean, we used to bump 2 and 3 weight classes. It was insane. You may weigh in at 140 and we're up in Valdosta, and all of a sudden, hey, I need you to wrestle 157. And your coach is bouncing you all around. So the idea of us being able to do that, I would love it. Now, Joey Phillips, who came from Fort Myers with me, and he's up there, he would be just like Clay. I mean, he would have everything mapped out. He would stay up till midnight. He would go over, have 50 scenarios, and we'd just send the kid out there. So I would love it. I mean, that's something that when I seen that, I'm like, that's a great idea. I would love that to happen, because then it really puts more on the coaches. The coaches have got to know their kids, and they've got to know, okay, where can I screw him up and make him force him to send a kid out onto that mat that he doesn't want to send out. And I'd love it. I mean, I think it just add a little bit more strategy and excitement to the matches.
Yeah, I would love to see that, especially like I said, come state championship time. You got two teams that are, head to head, that normally you could start it at any weight class and it'd probably end up like, 30-30 or whatever. But then add in that extra strategy. So Zane, I had the conversation with him. He's like, oh yeah, I'd love that. I could see him just like over there doing his math book and putting like little pins on the paper, being like, here's here and here. Like, I would love that. That would help me out. Because like I said, I'd just clear mind and everything, but it would be fun to watch. I said it'd be fun to watch in the state championship, especially coming down to that last match.
Yeah, and a lot of times it comes down when they're
you guys should use that over at Suwannee and Clay, that dual meet that you guys have coming up. That's cool. I love hearing about that. I meant to mention that put a big smile on my face.
Yeah. I think Reap would do it. We might even have those socks back for that match.
Oh man,
y'all
don't have the socks anymore?
They hadn't had
get the elastic back in them.
14.
Well, you know what? Maybe there's a reason that Suwannee High hasn't been doing so well in those couple years. Is because of the socks.
I bet you Jordan Cohn's got a couple pairs of them socks in his closet right now.
I tried to steal them, but Coach Laxton was on me, man. He had the paper, and I was going to steal everything. And one other thing, I had told him, I was like, hey, Coach, we should do black final singlets and everything. He goes, hey, that's cool and everything. I'm like, so if I get a final singlet made, I can wear it? He goes, yeah, you can. but then you're going to have like about a minute and a half to go get changed into the regular one. And then the next year, he got black final singlets.
Yeah,
I was
Well,
so,
it was.
Yes,
I was
he
so
did.
mad.
Yeah, and they had them.
It was
for
my
regions.
idea.
Yeah, and they had them at regions.
I know. I was so mad. But all right, guys, I appreciate you coming on, talking about this a little bit, and kind of throwing around these ideas on making it a little bit more exciting. Maybe in the future we'll see the dual championships going to be the end of the year tournament. Kind of create a big. That would be easier too. Not to run this a lot longer, but like you said, that'd be so much easier to get like a pride bus or whatever bus going down to the state tournament from Live Oak, Florida, Tallahassee, Florida, to watch that one match. So maybe it'll catch on. Wade Child's a pretty intelligent dude. We'll have you guys back on. I appreciate it, y'all.